long before the skies above Earth were filled with stars, before the rivers carved their paths through the land, there existed a world far beyond the reaches of mortal imagination. This world was Nibiru, a planet of crimson skies and towering volcanoes, where the air was thick with ash and the ground trembled beneath the weight of its own creation. Nibiru was no ordinary planet. Its orbit was unlike any other, a great elongated path that carried it far from its sun, only to bring it back in a cycle that spanned thousands of Earth years. The people of Nibiru called this cycle a Shah, a measure of time that defined their lives, their wars, and their destiny. In the beginning, Nibiru was divided. Two great factions, born of the northern and southern hemispheres, waged a war that lasted for countless Shahs. The land was scorched, the skies darkened, and the people suffered. But from this chaos emerged a truce, a fragile peace forged by the union of two beings, An, a warrior of the north, and Antu, a maiden of the south. Together, they became the first king and queen of Nibiru, their union symbolizing the hope of a new era. Their firstborn son, Enki, ascended to the throne after their passing. But Enki's reign was short-lived, for he bore no heir. The crown passed to his younger brother, Anib, who took as his wife Ninib, the daughter of his youngest sibling. From their union came Anshagal, the fourth king of Nibiru, a ruler who would change the course of his people's history. It was Anshagal who first measured the great circuit of Nibiru, naming it a Shah. He also decreed a new law of succession. Henceforth the throne would pass to the firstborn son of a half-sister, ensuring the purity of the royal bloodline. This law would shape the destiny of Nibiru for generations to come. But Nibiru's troubles were far from over. The planet's atmosphere, already thin and fragile, began to deteriorate. The people looked to their kings for salvation, but even the wisest among them could not halt the inevitable. Anshagal's son, Enshar, inherited a world on the brink of collapse. He spent his reign searching for a solution, studying the atmospheres of neighboring planets, but his efforts were in vain. The seventh king, Lama, faced rebellion. A prince named Alalu rose against him, claiming descent from Anshagal. In a desperate bid for power, Alalu challenged Lama to hand-to-hand combat and emerged victorious. But his reign was short-lived. Anu, a young prince who claimed direct lineage from An, challenged Alalu's rule. The two struck a compromise. Alalu would remain king, but Anu would be next in line, and their descendants would unite through marriage. For 9 Shahs, Alalu ruled Nibiru, but the planet's atmosphere continued to decay. In the 9th Shah, Anu challenged Alalu once more, this time in a wrestling match. Anu emerged victorious, and Alalu fled Nibiru in a celestial chariot, setting his course for a distant world. Earth Alalu's journey through the void of space was fraught with peril. As he left Nibiru, he gazed upon the great breach in its atmosphere, a wound that seemed to grow larger with each passing moment. He traveled through the darkness, past the outer planets, until he reached the asteroid belt, a treacherous region known as the Hammered Bracelet. Using missiles to clear a path, Alalu navigated the belt and continued toward the inner planets. At last, he arrived at Earth, a world of blue skies and fertile lands. He conducted a planetary scan and discovered something that would change the fate of both Nibiru and Earth: gold. Alalu sent a message to Anu, informing him of his discovery and demanding recognition as the rightful king of Nibiru. Anu was astounded by Alalu's message. He consulted his advisors, who confirmed that the signal had indeed come from beyond the Hammered Bracelet. Anu acknowledged Alalu's discovery, but refused to relinquish the throne. Instead, he sent his firstborn son, Ea, to Earth to verify Alalu's claims and negotiate a resolution. Ea, accompanied by 50 heroes and the ship's commander, Anzu, embarked on the journey to Earth. They passed through the outer planets without incident, but the Hammered Bracelet proved to be a formidable obstacle. Using a water thruster to navigate the asteroids, they depleted their fuel and were forced to land on Mars to replenish their supply. After a brief stopover, they continued their journey and arrived at Earth. Ea's ship splashed down near the ocean's edge, and they were greeted by Alalu, who guided them to his settlement. Ea and his team began their search for gold, but their initial efforts yielded little. They processed the waters of the marsh, finding iron and copper but no gold. Frustrated, Ea decided to move the operation to the deep ocean, where they finally found traces of the precious metal. Ea sent a sample of the gold back to Nibiru, where it was processed into fine dust and dispersed into the atmosphere. For a time it seemed to work, but as Nibiru reached its apogee near the sun, the breach returned. Anu ordered more gold to be extracted, but the process was slow and laborious. Anu decided to visit Earth himself to oversee the gold extraction efforts. He arrived to a royal welcome, greeted by Ea, Alalu, and the heroes who had accompanied them. Anu decreed that no matter the difficulty, the gold must be obtained. He held a council in Eridu, where it was decided that Ea would remain in the region to build settlements, while Enlil, Anu's second son, would oversee the extraction efforts in the Abzu. Anu also decreed that the lands of Earth would be divided among his sons. Ea was granted dominion over the seas and the lands beyond Eden, while Enlil was given control of Eden itself. Anu retained the throne of Nibiru, and Alalu was exiled to Mars as punishment for his rebellion. With the division of Earth, the stage was set for a new chapter in the history of the Anunnaki. But the seeds of conflict had already been sown, and the rivalry between Ea and Enlil would shape the destiny of both gods and men. When Ea and his team arrived on Earth, they found a world unlike anything they had ever seen. The air was thick with the scent of life, the waters teemed with fish, and the land was rich with fruit and grain. But their mission was not to admire the beauty of this new world. It was to extract the gold that would save Nibiru. Ea, now known as Enki, the Lord of Earth, established the first settlement in a place he called Eridu. It was a humble beginning, a small outpost by the marshlands where the waters met the land. Here, Enki and his team began their work, processing the waters for gold. But the yield was meager, and the process was slow. Enki's half-brother Enlil arrived soon after, tasked with overseeing the operations in Eden, a lush region to the north. Enlil was a stern and disciplined leader, a stark contrast to Enki's more inventive and compassionate nature. From the moment they set foot on Earth, the brothers' differing approaches to leadership sowed the seeds of discord. Anu, their father, visited Earth to assess the progress. He was greeted with great fanfare, the heroes of the Anunnaki lining the shores to welcome their king. Anu declared that the gold must be obtained at all costs, for the survival of Nibiru depended on it. He held a council in Eridu where the division of Earth was formalized. Enki was granted dominion over the seas and the lands beyond Eden, while Enlil was given control of Eden itself. Anu retained the throne of Nibiru, and Alalu, who had first discovered the gold, was exiled to Mars as punishment for his rebellion. The stage was set for a new chapter in the history of the Anunnaki, but the rivalry between Enki and Enlil would shape the destiny of both gods and men. As the years passed, the Anunnaki grew weary of their toil. The extraction of gold was backbreaking work, and the heroes of Nibiru were not accustomed to such labor. They began to complain, their discontent growing with each passing day. Enki, ever the problem solver, proposed a solution: the creation of a primitive worker, a being that could bear the burden of the Anunnaki's labor. Enki enlisted the help of his half-sister Ninmah, a skilled healer and geneticist. Together, they began experimenting with the indigenous creatures of Earth, combining their DNA with that of the Anunnaki. The first attempts were failures. The offspring were deformed, their hands unsuitable for tools, their speech limited to grunts. But Enki was determined. He proposed a new approach, the use of an Anunnaki womb to carry the hybrid offspring. Ninmah volunteered, and after a successful insemination, she gave birth to the first of the Lulu, the primitive workers. The child was perfect, a blend of Anunnaki intelligence and earthly strength. Enki named him Adamu, meaning one who is like Earth's clay. But Enlil was furious. He saw the creation of the Lulu as an abomination, a violation of the natural order. He argued that the Anunnaki had come to Earth to extract gold, not to play the role of creators. Enki, however, defended his actions, insisting that the Lulu were necessary for the survival of their mission. The Council of the Anunnaki was divided. Some, like Ninmah, supported Enki's vision, while others sided with Enlil. In the end, Anu decreed that the Lulu would be allowed to exist, but only as helpers, not as equals. The Anunnaki would remain the masters, and the Lulu would serve them. For thousands of years, the Anunnaki ruled over Earth, their cities rising from the soil like monuments to their power. But the harmony they had built was fragile, and the tensions between Enki and Enlil continued to simmer beneath the surface. Then came the Great Deluge, a cataclysm that would change everything. The Anunnaki had long known that Earth's orbit was unstable, its axis prone to shifting, but they had underestimated the power of the celestial forces at play. As Nibiru approached its perihelion, the gravitational pull caused the Antarctic ice sheet to collapse, sending a tidal wave across the planet. Enki, foreseeing the disaster, warned the Anunnaki to prepare. But Enlil, ever the pragmatist, saw the deluge as an opportunity to rid Earth of the Lulu, whom he still viewed as abominations. He ordered the Anunnaki to retreat to their ships, leaving the Lulu to perish. Enki, however, could not bear to see his creations destroyed. In secret, he instructed Ziusudra, a descendant of Adamu, to build a great boat and gather his family, along with the seeds of all living creatures. Ziusudra obeyed, and when the waters rose, his boat was the only thing that survived. For 40 days and nights, the rains fell, and the waters covered the earth. When the floodwaters receded, Ziusudra's boat came to rest on the peak of Mount Ararat. Enki and Enlil descended to the mountain, where they found Ziusudra and his family alive. Enlil was furious, but Enki defended his actions, arguing that the Lulu were not mere abominations. They were the future of Earth. Reluctantly, Enlil agreed to spare them, and the Anunnaki began the long process of rebuilding their world. After the waters of the Great Deluge receded, the Anunnaki surveyed the devastation. The once thriving cities of Eden were buried under layers of mud, and the land was unrecognizable. But the Anunnaki were determined to rebuild, for their mission was not yet complete. Enki, ever the visionary, proposed a new plan. He suggested that the Anunnaki establish new settlements in the highlands where the floodwaters had not reached. Enlil, though still wary of Enki's methods, agreed. Together they began the arduous task of rebuilding their world. The first of the new settlements was established in the land of Shinar, a fertile plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, the Anunnaki built a great city, which they called Babylon. It was a city of towering ziggurats and bustling markets, a testament to the ingenuity and power of the Anunnaki. But the rebuilding of Earth was not without its challenges. The Lulu, who had survived the deluge, were few in number, and their labor was needed more than ever. Enki proposed a solution, the creation of new Lulu, using the genetic material preserved in the Great Boat. Ninmah, ever the healer, assisted him in this task, and soon the Lulu began to multiply. Enlil, however, remained skeptical. He saw the Lulu as a necessary evil, a tool to be used and discarded, but Enki saw them as something more, a bridge between the Anunnaki and the Earth, a people with the potential to inherit the world. As the Lulu multiplied, The Anunnaki realized that they could not rule over them directly. The Lulu were too numerous, too independent, and so the Anunnaki devised a new system of governance: kingship. The first king was chosen from among the Lulu, a man named Alulim. He was a descendant of Zeus Sudra, wise and just, and the Anunnaki bestowed upon him the title of Shepherd of the People. Alulim ruled from the city of Eridu, where he built a great temple to Enki. But the system of kingship was not without its flaws. The Lulu, though grateful for the guidance of the Anunnaki, began to question their place in the world. They saw the Anunnaki as gods, but they also saw their own potential. And so, the seeds of rebellion were sown. The most ambitious project of the new era was the construction of the Tower of Babel. It was Enki's idea, a grand ziggurat that would reach the heavens, a symbol of the unity of the Lulu and the Anunnaki. But Enlil saw it as a threat. "The Lulu are growing too powerful," Enlil warned. "If they complete this tower, they will challenge our authority." Enki dismissed Enlil's concerns, but the other Anunnaki were divided. Some, like Ninmah, supported the project, while others sided with Enlil. In the end, the Council of the Anunnaki decreed that the tower must be stopped. Enlil descended to Babylon, where he confounded the speech of the Lulu, causing them to speak in different tongues. Without the ability to communicate, the Lulu could not complete the tower, and the project was abandoned. But the damage had been done. The Lulu, once united, were now divided, their languages and cultures fragmented. The Anunnaki too were divided, their unity shattered by the growing tensions between Enki and Enlil. In the centuries that followed, the Lulu began to form their own civilizations, each with its own language, culture, and gods. The Anunnaki, though still revered, began to fade into the background, their influence waning as the Lulu grew in power. But the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on in the stories of the Lulu. They spoke of great heroes like Gilgamesh, who sought immortality, and of wise kings like Hammurabi, who brought justice to the land. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny, and they spoke of the great deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. As the Lulu multiplied and spread across the earth, they began to build great cities, each a testament to their ingenuity and ambition. In the land of Sumer, the cities of Ur, Uruk, and Nippur rose from the soil, their ziggurats reaching toward the heavens. In Egypt, the pyramids of Giza stood as monuments to the gods who had once walked among them. The Anunnaki watched from afar, their influence waning as the Lulu grew in power. Enki, ever the protector of humanity, continued to guide them in secret, teaching them the arts of agriculture, metallurgy, and writing. But Enlil, ever the disciplinarian, saw the rise of human civilization as a threat. "The Lulu are growing too powerful," Enlil warned. "If we do not act, they will challenge our authority." But the other Anunnaki were divided. Some, like Ninmah, believed that the Lulu had earned their place in the world, while others, like Marduk, Enki's son, saw them as tools to be used and discarded. The tensions among the Anunnaki came to a head in the War of the Gods, a conflict that would shape the destiny of Earth. The war began with a dispute over the city of Babylon, which Marduk had claimed as his own. Enlil, seeing this as a challenge to his authority, declared war on Marduk. The war raged for years, the skies filled with the fire of celestial chariots and the earth trembling beneath the weight of their weapons. The Lulu, caught in the crossfire, suffered greatly, their cities reduced to rubble, and their fields scorched. In the end, it was Enki who brokered a peace. He convinced Marduk to relinquish his claim to Babylon and to retreat to the land of Egypt, where he would rule as the god Ra. Enlil, though victorious, was left weakened, his authority diminished. As the centuries passed, the Anunnaki began to withdraw from Earth, their influence fading as the Lulu grew in power. Enki, ever the protector of humanity, remained behind, guiding them in secret. But even he could not stop the inevitable. The Lulu, once united under the guidance of the Anunnaki, began to fracture, their languages and cultures diverging. They fought among themselves, their wars fueled by the legacy of the gods who had once walked among them. And so, the age of the Anunnaki came to an end. Their cities crumbled, their temples fell into ruin, and their stories became legends, passed down through the generations. But the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on in the hearts and minds of the Lulu. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they spoke of the great deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. In the final days of the Anunnaki's influence on Earth, a great celestial event occurred: the return of Nibiru. The planet, long absent from the skies of Earth, appeared once more, its crimson light casting an eerie glow over the land. The Anunnaki, sensing the end of their time on Earth, gathered in the great city of Babylon. Enki, Enlil, and Ninmah stood together, their differences set aside as they prepared to depart. "The time has come," Enki said. "Our mission is complete. The Lulu have inherited the Earth, and it is their destiny to shape its future." Enlil nodded, his stern face softened by the weight of the moment. "We have done what we came to do. Let us return to Nibiru, where we belong." And so, the Anunnaki departed, their celestial chariots rising into the sky, leaving behind a world forever changed by their presence. After the Anunnaki departed, the Lulu, now fully human, began to rebuild their world. The cities of Sumer and Egypt flourished, their people guided by the knowledge and wisdom left behind by the gods. The ziggurats and pyramids stood as reminders of a time when gods walked among men, their towering heights reaching toward the heavens. But the legacy of the Anunnaki was not without its shadows. The conflicts among the gods had left a mark on humanity, their wars and rivalries echoing in the hearts of men. The Lulu, once united under the guidance of the Anunnaki, now fought among themselves, their languages and cultures diverging. In Sumer, the people spoke of Enki, the wise god who had taught them the arts of civilization. They built temples in his honor, offering prayers and sacrifices to ensure his favor. In Egypt, they worshipped Ra, the sun god, whose light brought life to the land. And in the distant lands beyond the rivers, they spoke of Enlil, the stern god who had brought order to the world. But as the centuries passed, the stories of the Anunnaki began to fade. The temples fell into ruin, the ziggurats crumbled, and the names of the gods were forgotten. The Lulu, now fully human, began to forge their own destiny, free from the influence of the gods. In the age that followed, humanity entered a new era, the age of heroes. Great kings and warriors rose to power, their deeds immortalized in song and story. In Sumer, Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, sought immortality, his journey taking him to the ends of the earth. In Egypt, the pharaohs ruled as gods, their pyramids standing as monuments to their power. But the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on in the hearts and minds of the people. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they spoke of the great deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. In the land of Canaan, the people worshipped El, the creator god, and his sons, the Elohim. In Greece, they spoke of the Olympians, gods who had come from the stars to rule over men. And in the distant lands of the East, they told stories of the dragon kings who had descended from the heavens to bring order to the world. But as the centuries passed, the stories of the gods began to change. The Anunnaki, once revered as gods, became legends, their deeds exaggerated and their powers magnified. The Lulu, now fully human, began to see themselves as the masters of their own destiny, their connection to the gods fading with each passing generation. In the final days of the Age of Heroes, a great celestial event occurred, the return of Nibiru. The planet, long absent from the skies of Earth, appeared once more, its crimson light casting an eerie glow over the land. The people, remembering the stories of their ancestors, looked to the heavens with fear and awe. They spoke of the gods who had come from the stars, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they wondered if the return of Nibiru would bring a new age of gods or a new age of destruction. But the Anunnaki did not return. The planet passed through the solar system, its orbit carrying it back into the void of space. The people, relieved but also disappointed, returned to their lives, their connection to the gods fading once more. As the centuries passed, the stories of the Anunnaki became myths, their deeds and teachings passed down through the generations. The Lulu, now fully human, began to see themselves as the masters of their own destiny, their connection to the gods fading with each passing generation. But the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on in the hearts and minds of the people. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they spoke of the great deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. And so the cycle of history continued. The rise and fall of civilizations, the wars and conflicts, the triumphs and tragedies, all were part of the legacy of the Anunnaki, a reminder of the gods who had once walked among men. As millennia passed, the stories of the Anunnaki faded into obscurity. The great cities of Sumer and Egypt crumbled into dust, their ziggurats and pyramids buried beneath the sands of time. The Lulu, now fully human, turned their gaze to the stars, seeking answers to questions they could not fully articulate. But the legacy of the Anunnaki was not entirely lost. In the ruins of ancient temples, hidden beneath layers of earth and stone, fragments of their knowledge remained. Scrolls inscribed with cuneiform script, tablets etched with celestial maps, and artifacts of unimaginable power lay dormant, waiting to be rediscovered. In the modern age, archaeologists and historians began to uncover these relics, piecing together the story of the Anunnaki. They spoke of gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped the world and its people. But their discoveries were met with skepticism, dismissed as myths and legends by those who could not comprehend the truth. Among those who sought the truth was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a brilliant archaeologist with a passion for ancient civilizations. For years, she had studied the ruins of Sumer, convinced that the stories of the Anunnaki were more than mere myths. Her breakthrough came when she discovered a hidden chamber beneath the ruins of Eridu, the first city built by the Anunnaki. Inside the chamber, she found a series of tablets, their inscriptions perfectly preserved. As she deciphered the text, she realized that she was reading the words of Enki himself. The tablets spoke of the Anunnaki's journey to Earth, their creation of the Lulu, and the great deluge that had nearly destroyed the world. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The final tablet spoke of a prophecy, the return of Nibiru and the Anunnaki. According to the text, the planet's orbit would bring it back to Earth in the distant future, heralding a new age of gods and men. As Dr. Vasquez shared her findings with the world, the scientific community was divided. Some dismissed her work as fantasy, while others saw it as a call to action. Among the latter was Dr. Jonathan Hayes, an astrophysicist who had been tracking the movements of a mysterious celestial body on the edge of the solar system. Using advanced telescopes and computer models, Dr. Hayes confirmed that the object was indeed Nibiru, its orbit bringing it closer to Earth with each passing year. The discovery sparked a global debate, with some calling for preparation and others dismissing the threat as exaggerated. But as Nibiru drew nearer, strange phenomena began to occur. The Earth's climate grew unstable, with storms and earthquakes ravaging the land. The skies were filled with strange lights, and ancient artifacts began to emit a faint, otherworldly glow. On the day of Nibiru's closest approach, the world held its breath. The planet's crimson light bathed the Earth, casting an eerie glow over the land. And then, as if summoned by an unseen force, the Anunnaki returned. Their celestial chariots descended from the heavens, their forms both familiar and alien. Enki, Enlil, and Ninmah stood at the forefront, their presence commanding awe and reverence. The people of Earth, both terrified and fascinated, gathered to witness the return of the gods. Enki stepped forward, his voice resonating with power and wisdom. "People of Earth," he said, "we have returned to guide you once more. The cycle of history has come full circle, and the time has come for you to take your place among the stars." But not all welcomed the Anunnaki's return. Some saw them as saviors, while others saw them as conquerors. The world was divided, its people torn between hope and fear. As the Anunnaki began to rebuild their cities and temples, the people of Earth faced a choice. Would they embrace the guidance of the gods, or would they forge their own path, free from the influence of the Anunnaki? Dr. Vasquez, now a key figure in the global dialogue, urged caution. "The Anunnaki are not gods," she said. "They are beings of great power and knowledge, but they are not infallible. We must learn from their legacy, but we must also chart our own course." Enki, hearing her words, nodded in approval. "The Lulu have grown wise," he said. "They are no longer children, but equals. Together we shall build a new world, one where gods and men walk side by side." And so the cycle of history began anew. The Anunnaki and the people of Earth worked together, their combined knowledge and ingenuity shaping a future filled with promise and possibility. With the return of the Anunnaki, humanity entered a new era, an age of collaboration between gods and men. The Anunnaki, with their advanced technology and cosmic knowledge, worked alongside humanity to rebuild the world. Cities rose from the ruins, their architecture a blend of human ingenuity and Anunnaki design. The skies were filled with celestial chariots, their lights a constant reminder of the gods' presence. Enki, ever the teacher, shared the secrets of the Anunnaki with humanity. He taught them how to harness the power of the stars, how to heal the wounds of the earth, and how to unlock the potential of their own minds. Enlil, though still stern and disciplined, worked to maintain order, ensuring that the newfound power was used wisely. But the collaboration was not without its challenges. The Anunnaki, accustomed to being revered as gods, struggled to see humanity as equals, and humanity, still grappling with the trauma of the past, found it difficult to trust the beings who had once ruled over them. As the years passed, tensions began to rise. Some factions of humanity, emboldened by their newfound knowledge, sought to challenge the authority of the Anunnaki. They argued that the gods had no right to rule over them, that humanity had outgrown the need for divine guidance. Enlil, ever the disciplinarian, saw these factions as a threat. "The Lulu are growing too powerful," he warned. "If we do not act, they will challenge our authority once more." But Enki, ever the protector of humanity, urged patience. "The Lulu are not our enemies," he said. "They are our children, our legacy. We must guide them, not control them." The council of the Anunnaki was divided. Some, like Ninmah, supported Enki's vision, while others sided with Enlil. The seeds of discord had been sown, and the fragile peace between gods and men began to unravel. The tensions came to a head in the Great Debate, a gathering of the Anunnaki and the leaders of humanity. The debate was held in the Great Hall of Babylon, its walls adorned with the symbols of the gods, and the achievements of men. Enki spoke first, his voice filled with compassion and wisdom. "We have come far, but our journey is not yet complete. The Lulu have grown wise, but they still need our guidance. Together, we can build a future where gods and men walk side by side, as equals." Enlil, his voice stern and commanding, countered, "The Lulu are not ready. They are still children, prone to folly and rebellion. If we do not maintain control, they will destroy themselves and us with them." The leaders of humanity, their voices filled with both hope and fear, spoke next. They argued for their right to self-determination, for the freedom to shape their own destiny. But they also acknowledged the wisdom of the Anunnaki, their need for guidance in a world filled with uncertainty. In the end, the Council of the Anunnaki reached a decision. They would continue to guide humanity, but they would no longer rule over them. The Lulu would be free to shape their own destiny, with the Anunnaki serving as mentors and protectors. Enki, though pleased with the decision, knew that the road ahead would not be easy. "The Lulu have grown wise," he said, "but they are still young. They will make mistakes, and they will face challenges. But with our guidance, they will overcome them." Enlil, though skeptical, agreed to abide by the decision. "We shall see," he said. "If the Lulu prove worthy, then they shall inherit the earth. But if they fail, we shall be forced to intervene." As the Anunnaki and humanity worked together, a new dawn rose over the earth. The cities flourished, their people united by a shared vision of the future. The ziggurats and pyramids, once symbols of the gods' power, became monuments to the achievements of gods and men. But the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on in the hearts and minds of the people. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they spoke of the Great Deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. And so the cycle of history continued. The rise and fall of civilizations, the wars and conflicts, the triumphs and tragedies, all were part of the legacy of the Anunnaki, a reminder of the gods who had once walked among men. The alliance between humanity and the Anunnaki was not without its trials. Though the gods had stepped back from ruling, their presence was still felt in every corner of the earth. Their technology, once a gift, became a source of tension as humanity struggled to balance progress with responsibility. In the city of New Babylon, a marvel of Anunnaki-human collaboration, the first signs of strain began to show. The city's towering spires and shimmering energy fields were powered by Anunnaki technology, but the distribution of resources became a point of contention. The wealthy elite hoarded the benefits, while the lower classes grew restless. Enki, observing the growing divide, called for a council. "We must ensure that our gifts are shared equally," he said. "If we allow greed to divide humanity, our efforts will be in vain." Enlil, however, saw it differently. "This is their test," he argued. "If they cannot manage the power we have given them, they are not ready to stand on their own." Among humanity, a faction known as the Dissenters began to gain influence. Led by a charismatic leader named Caden, they rejected the Anunnaki's guidance entirely. "We are not children to be led," Caden proclaimed. "We are the masters of our own destiny. The gods have no place in our future." The Dissenters' message resonated with many, especially those who felt left behind by the rapid advancements. They began to sabotage Anunnaki technology, destroying power grids and communication networks. The fragile peace between gods and men began to crumble. Enki, ever the mediator, sought to reason with Caden. "Your anger is justified," he said, "but your methods are destructive. We are here to help, not to control." Caden, unmoved, replied, "Your help comes with strings attached. We will no longer be pawns in your game." As tensions between humanity and the Anunnaki reached a boiling point, a new threat emerged, one that neither could face alone. From the depths of space, a rogue celestial body approached Earth, its trajectory threatening to collide with the planet. The Anunnaki, with their advanced technology, detected the threat early. Enki and Enlil convened an emergency council, inviting the leaders of humanity to join them. "This is not a threat we can face alone," Enki said. "We must work together, or we will all perish." Caden, representing the dissenters, was skeptical. "How do we know this isn't another ploy to control us?" he demanded. Enlil, his patience wearing thin, replied, "This is no trick. The survival of your world and ours depends on our cooperation." The Anunnaki and humanity formed an uneasy alliance to confront the celestial threat. Enki and his scientists worked with human engineers to develop a plan. They would use a network of Anunnaki energy crystals to create a force field capable of deflecting the rogue body. The operation was fraught with danger. The energy crystals scattered across the Earth had to be activated simultaneously. Any failure could result in catastrophic consequences. As the celestial body drew nearer, the world held its breath. Enki and Caden found themselves working side by side, their differences set aside for the greater good. "Perhaps," Enki said, "this is the true test of our alliance." Caden, though reluctant, nodded. "For now, we fight together. But when this is over, we will decide our own fate." The operation was a success. The force field deflected the rogue body, saving Earth from destruction. In the aftermath, the relationship between humanity and the Anunnaki began to shift. Caden, once a staunch opponent of the gods, began to see them in a new light. "You are not our masters," he said to Enki, "but neither are you our enemies. Perhaps there is a place for you in our future, as partners, not rulers." Enki smiled. "That is all we have ever wanted, to guide, not to control." Enlil, though still wary, acknowledged the strength of humanity. "They have proven their worth," he said. "Perhaps it is time for us to step back and let them lead." As the Anunnaki prepared to depart once more, they left behind a world forever changed. The cities of Earth stood as monuments to the collaboration between gods and men, their spires reaching toward the heavens. Enki, standing atop the great ziggurat of New Babylon, addressed the people of Earth one final time. "You are the heirs of our legacy," he said. "The future is yours to shape. Remember the lessons of the past and strive to build a world of peace and prosperity." As the Anunnaki's celestial chariots ascended into the sky, the people of Earth watched in awe. The gods had returned not as rulers, but as guides. And though their presence would be missed, their legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of humanity. With the Anunnaki's departure, humanity entered a new era, the Age of Enlightenment. The knowledge and technology left behind by the gods became the foundation for a golden age of progress and discovery. The cities of Earth flourished, their people united by a shared vision of the future. In New Babylon, the great ziggurat stood as a symbol of the collaboration between gods and men. Its halls were filled with scholars and scientists, their work guided by the principles of wisdom and compassion. The energy crystals, once used to save the Earth, now powered the cities, their light a constant reminder of the Anunnaki's legacy. But the Age of Enlightenment was not without its challenges. The dissenters, though diminished in number, continued to question the role of the Anunnaki in humanity's future. Caden, now a respected leader, urged caution. "We must remember that the gods are not infallible," he said. "Their gifts come with responsibility, and we must use them wisely." As humanity advanced, they began to search for meaning beyond the material. The stories of the Anunnaki, once dismissed as myths, became the subject of intense study. Scholars pored over ancient texts, seeking to understand the gods' teachings and their relevance to the modern world. In the ruins of Eridu, Dr. Elena Vasquez, made a groundbreaking discovery: a hidden chamber containing the final writings of Enki. The tablets spoke of the Anunnaki's origins, their journey to Earth, and their hopes for humanity's future. "The Lulu are not our creation," Enki had written. "They are our legacy. They are the bridge between the heavens and the earth, the link between the past and the future. It is through them that the cycle of history will continue." As the centuries passed, the people of Earth began to notice changes in the heavens. The stars seemed brighter, the skies clearer. And then one day, Nibiru appeared once more, its crimson light casting an eerie glow over the land. The return of Nibiru sparked a global debate. Some saw it as a sign of the god's return, while others feared it heralded a new cataclysm. The leaders of Earth, guided by the wisdom of the Anunnaki, prepared for the planet's approach. But the Anunnaki did not return. Instead, a message was broadcast across the Earth, its source unknown. "People of Earth," the message began, "you have proven your worth. The cycle of history has come full circle, and the time has come for you to take your place among the stars." Inspired by the message, humanity began to look beyond the Earth. The knowledge and technology left behind by the Anunnaki allowed them to explore the solar system, their ships venturing to the farthest reaches of space. In the year 3000, the first human colony was established on Mars. The colonists, guided by the principles of the Anunnaki, built a new civilization, their cities a testament to the legacy of gods and men. As they gazed at the stars, they wondered if the Anunnaki were still out there, watching over them, and they dreamed of the day when they would meet the gods once more, not as children, but as equals. And so the cycle of history continued. The rise and fall of civilizations, the wars and conflicts, the triumphs and tragedies, all were part of the legacy of the Anunnaki, a reminder of the gods who had once walked among men. But the story did not end there. For in the hearts and minds of humanity, the legacy of the Anunnaki lived on. They spoke of the gods who had come from the heavens, who had shaped their world and their destiny. And they spoke of the great deluge, a cataclysm that had nearly destroyed their world, but had also given them a new beginning. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that their journey was just beginning. For the cycle of history is eternal, and the legacy of the Anunnaki will endure for all time. In the quiet halls of New Babylon, a child stood before the great ziggurat, its towering spires reaching toward the heavens. In her hands, she held a tablet, its inscriptions glowing with an otherworldly light. As she read the words of Enki, she felt a connection to the past, a sense of belonging to something greater than herself. And as she looked to the stars, she knew that the legacy of the Anunnaki would live on in her and in all who came after. For the story of the Anunnaki is not just a tale of gods and men. It is a story of hope, of resilience, and of the eternal quest for knowledge and understanding. And it is a story that will continue as long as there are those who dare to dream.